So this week's build is Halloween themed challenge. You see me building a little man here. He's going to go in a forest, the big reveal. You'll see this later on as well. It's a big wolf attacking the man. Retro Roboland is the name of my channel. I build retro builds. This week's build is the Doomsday Halloween Challenge in conjunction with Crafty Rick and N-Scale Dystopia. I roll dice, 5 and a 3. I'm building a plant animal in the woods. Now there's a whole lot of us involved. A lot of chatter on the group that made this. Crafty Rick did a Fallout inspired build. Mr. Fallout we call him. Well, I do. Anyway, he's great. Does some really great work. JSK Miniature did sort of a 2D version and 3D of The Simpsons. Really interesting build. Love the colours there. Juno. This is sort of a tomb thing there. The guy looks like Harrison Ford. I think's the idea. I love the minis he's made. James Marsh. This is the people, actually the baddies. They're attacking the real alive pumpkins. Christina Creates was stepping out of what she usually does. A really interesting build, and she had a lot of fun on the thread. This is some strawberries that are zombies attacking the humans. And Joshua, here he was, a little bit autobiographical, I think. Apartment not unlike the one he lives in, and the zombies are attacking. N-Scale Dystopia. This is from the movie Beetlejuice. He does some amazing work in N-Scale. You should see his channel if you haven't already. Neil O'Rourke, this is not quite finished. There is a resin pour going through, but it is a swampy type theme. I love that. Huck, he went the Scooby-Doo method. Look at that, colours. I just love the look of the old house in that one there. Sus made a really quite surreal movie with these mutants attacking the man in some sort of room, and there's you should see the story. Work in progress, Tony Scale. It's going to be amazing. Always check out his work. Alex was building a shopping centre that had been abandoned. And Sean's castle, when it gets finished, he got held up by a few things. It's going to be incredible. Okay, so my build, the idea here is, okay, so I've got forest, I've got an animal. I originally thought of a lot of stuff, and I could have gone retro and called it like Stranger Things, but I kind of went a bit further back, like a Hound of the Baskervilles, Sherlock Holmes, big wolf attacking a man in a forest, and this is the kind of aesthetic I looked. It was designed to look like a movie, out of the 1930s. So the first thought was, well, why don't I build like a movie arch for the viewing frame, make it really explicit out of foam, and I built a black kind of base. It could almost look like a theatre as well. That was the idea. So I built that first just to get the viewing frame. And then I wanted a forced perspective, so I had a sloped angle up to get the horizon line, but you could also read it as well. Maybe there were just smaller trees on a slope. It's implied forced perspective, but you read the viewing any way you want to. It could work either way, as in this is literally the size of the trees on there. To get the bark, I put on random bits and pieces of balsa wood on a packaging tube. And then for the other trees, put pipe into the foam, glued them in nice and solid, and then actually put in real trees, real twigs I got from the local park. When I collected a whole lot and found the ones that worked best. This is a mix of Mod Podge paint and plaster, and I just sealed off the foam. Then started carving the man, based actually on a pose of myself in my workshop. Did the face, did the arms, and the man holding the bat, and then a base made out of kind of balsa wood and wire, and the main limbs. Wrapped it around in tinfoil. That's the pose I was after, and just to get the general bulk. Is Milliput. Obviously it costs a fortune for the amount of stuff you get, but it is pretty cool. So then here, a little time lapse. She posted this reel on Instagram, that's why it's side angle here. And I just sculpted up the form, really looking carefully at the pictures I had and making sure I had the jacket looking like a jacket, and the folds in the clothes to make it look realistic. It's still quite chunky. I sort of got the look of a person. I originally thought, well, I can get a likeness in the face, but at that scale, the size of my thumb, it was a bit beyond my sculpting skills. although I think I'd like to do that. I want to get a real likeness of, so I think what I'll do at some point is like a head the size of a baseball or something a bit bigger, of someone famous with a bunch of cogs and stuff to give it the steampunky look and feel that I do. I also found that when I use my not a Dremel, Chinese knockoff, I could carve it back in upon drying and just get a little extra detail, the pointy end around, and I felt that made the piece stronger. Here it is with the Zenithal undercoat on, spray painted that on. I started with oil washes just to get like a base colour going there. You can build that colour up, it's pretty subtle, and then a little bit more oil, and finally I did a dry brush just to pick up the highlights, and a whole lot with acrylic paint. So I used dirt from my garden, I heated it in the oven to make it sterile, and then laid down some glue on my base, sprinkled it on there, and then sprayed on isopropyl alcohol, which breaks the surface tension so it sticks on. Airbrushed the kind of pink tree branch, and then what I did here was used a static grass applicator, spray painted it black so that I get the kind of shadows, and then repainted it in shades of brown and green to get a more realistic grass in scale, and some acrylic colours just to get the look of the tree trunk. I used dry brushing on the later branches to put them in scale. The ground cover was real leaves collected again from the local park. I was scavenging quite a bit for this build, and then I cut them up on our kitchen chopping board. I hope my wife does not see this picture. And then took it all as sort of ground of different sort of fineness is the word, I suppose, and laid down the glue on the base, and then just sprinkled it on. As I said, I had thicker in close to the viewer and finer further out, so try and get the perspective, and then spray painted it grey at the back just to get that whole full perspective thing, if you buy into the idea that it was a forced perspective idea. And then we've got some final picks that still's worked out pretty good as well. This is, as I said, it's got the smoke machine going. Behind it I just actually had a opaque sheet of transparency with which I shone light through to give it like a misty look throughout the whole thing, and the smoke really sells the look. I really like the build. It is an interesting idea. I wouldn't have done this without the challenge. Next up, there'll be other builds, maybe no more challenges for some time, and a little bit of gaps between and appreciate the build, and I'll see you again later. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.